Okay, so I'm pretty excited to show this. This is my third. This is gonna be my third PoE1 guide, and this is about Guardian. I know Guardian. Who plays Guardian? And I did some pretty funky stuff. I was looking at this Harmony of Purpose notable, and and it's been buffed because it used to be base duration of 10 seconds. They increased this to 20 seconds. So I figured maybe you can start making this somewhat consistent now. It's not affected by Atlas notables anymore. There was the change in 3.27. Um, the problem with Guardian is you have a lot of conditional utilities and not really a lot of damage. Um, that's why most people can't really use it. But with bloodlines being introduced, we can actually make a pretty good use of this ascendancy. So what I ended up doing is I figured, okay, I want to go for lots of speed and clear, especially in the builds within the league. I want some Herald of Ice explosions because I love those, and I cannot really put them into builds because Herald of Ice often doesn't work. So I figured, all right, let's get some speed. And what is the most iconic for speed? It's Spark, and of course Spark got nerfed multiple times. But if you put a lot of shrines on it, it should work, I figured. And my idea was, when making the build, that I want to make a build that works, has pretty much like works as a baseline, and once you get some buffs on it going, the build goes insane. So and I pretty much achieved that. This can run Deathless, Simulacrums, Uber bosses. It's a very solid build, even without shrines. So this is us, and so let me showcase the base idea of the build. So as you can see, we're right now not gaining any shrines. While you haven't moved, and I think you have to cast once, the shrines will start accumulating. So as you can see, we get one shrine every 10 seconds, it lasts for 20 seconds. This duration then gets increased by 50% from the Gal, and it gets increased by a further effective like 50% by the Runegraft of the Warp because the buffs, so that shrines too, expire slower. So the shrines last roughly 45 seconds on us. I'll just go ahead and move once and cast once, and so we'll see it slowly accumulating. So it's every 10 seconds, one will pop up on us. The shrines are weighted. So that means sometimes, so we just got an acceleration shrine, which makes us do GGG damage, of course, and as you can see, it's on 30 and it expires slower. The acceleration shrine has a joint weight of 30, so you do get it pretty often. But these are the weaker shrines, which you get the most. So Shrouded, Massive Resistance, Lightning, Impenetrable, Freezing. The funny enough, the lightning shrines don't really affect you, so they don't benefit of the Rune of the Warp because they're not considered a buff. One thing to know, however, is that the shrines block another shrine from coming on. So if you've got a resistance shrine, you cannot get it again until it's gone from that particular effect. So I got massive, so I can't gain massive anymore. That means the high weight shrines will start stacking on you. You can roughly have 4 of ones or something like that, and they will block. So the weight of the rare ones gets higher and higher. That means the echoing, which triples our damage, and replenishing, which doubles our damage, gain more likely the longer you stay in the map. Of course, the resistance is very strong because resistance gives us, if we hit resistance shrine, we gain 90 max res, which makes us immune to elemental damage pretty much. And the impenetrable shrine makes us close to evade and armor cap if I put on all flasks. And we have the impenetrable shrine pretty much almost always on, either the impenetrable or the resistance shrine, which makes this build feel so insanely tanky. Okay, so of course this is without any other effects. So this is more for bossing in a sense. So theoretically, you could wait until you get the GG shrine and then do it and speedrun the boss. I don't usually do it, but yeah. While mapping, Okay, if you don't know the shrines, acceleration shrine 50 increase action speed, which on us will be 125% increase action speed because we scale shrine effect by 75% with the Gall and by another 73% with the Blunderball. So the shrines get insanely effective. Also the max HP shrine, it's just all over the place. So thinking further, the Gull also creates lesser shrines on kill. These are worse versions, roughly 10% of the original shrines, but we scale those up by 1.5. So they're actually way more effective. So that's 25 projectile speed, like 125 armor, and like 6% all res almost. So while mapping, as you will see in the videos, we pretty much always have a lot of shrines on us and make us immortal and double the damage because of the layering of the Gull, creating lesser shrines, us continually stacking the shrines with increased duration, and then of course, if you get shrines on the Atlas tree as well, um, and you put in domination on the map, um, you will get even more shrines. So you will pretty much, while mapping, have almost always this speed shrine, every shrine you ever would want. So you can easily blast through any tier of map, pretty much no matter the juice. Because you're like on full headhunter stacks all the time while mapping. That's what makes this build so insane while mapping. Um, think about it like this. The shrines of the increased duration shrine buff on players granted by shrines in your maps scales with the Gull, and it also scales with the rune growth of the warp that we have on us anyways. So effectively, if we hit a shrine in a map, the shrine lasts for roughly 2 minutes, which is insane. So if we get an echoing shrine within the map, and if we hit one shrine, we get 2 buff effects actually, so it gets even higher likelihood. The buff lasts for 2 whole minutes, you know? And safe to say, as we pretty much have perma uptime while mapping. With this tech of like mixture and layering of increasing duration and reducing duration. Okay. As for the scaling of this build, it's very complex as most of Smith builds are. As you can see, we're running quite a lot of buffs. And kind of like all fucking auras in the game. Um, we're abusing Spectre Tech with a 5-link Ray Spectre and an Animate Guardian. So we gain between 3 to 4 auras of them. Then we are running Purity of Elements, Herald, of course, Flesh and Sin for my tankiness, a high level Clarity, and Haste. So sometimes we will proc while Haste while mapping too. Um, the base idea of how to scale it is pretty much scaling. Spark is all about scaling cast speed, projectile speed, and PS, and maybe even duration. You can either fill the whole arena with a ton of them, make them all pierce, and that way you create a lot of damage by making them last a lot and having them move a lot. Because every single spark cast can only damage once, it can't shotgun. So if I put out 12 projectiles, but only one of those 12 can hit the boss. But if I make them move a lot and increase the duration, effectively he starts getting shotgunned by all the different projectiles multi-hitting on him. Many builds therefore put more duration as a link on Spark and projectile speed as well. While I personally am only going for faster projectiles because I don't really care about duration because I deal enough damage and I have enough projectile speed, especially with friends going on while mapping, that we don't need more. There's also some slight projectile speed investments. There's some on the gloves as a craft, also some pierce. And I got 2 medium clusters with one pierce and a little bit of a projectile attack speed. Okay, as for that's pretty much it for Spark specific stuff. Then we got all the auras going on. Um, so that's like the okay. I think that's pretty much it for global scaling. Okay, let me just say I will make a guide, more written, more detailed, but I have got the experience now that I'm usually often updating these builds, and the forum guides will be more easy to update than making thousands of videos. So I won't go into like huge detail on every single gear piece. I will make that in the forum guide. One big thing is though, I'm running Annihilating Light on this build. A pretty iconic staff with triple damage with elemental skills. But pretty much we have to look for a lot of resistances on the gear if we want to go full res, especially with chaos res on top. But it's a great way to scale this build. But you will see me looking for a lot of res on gear pieces effectively. Also like having roughly 6k life, which is a very nice pool to hit. And lastly, I would like to go into the recovery portion of the build. Of course, the build is decently tanky with with 75 true spell block, 20 a flat block, and while mapping we get like 66 evasion with blocks, so we hardly ever get hit or damaged by anything. If we do get hit, we get the following recovery. We got Leech of the Cluster Jewel, which grants us roughly, since it's capped at 20% of max HP, like 1.5k per second. Then we got the Flask Mastery going, since the Flask are always auto-triggering and getting a lot of charges with the crit roll. That's the next recovery layer. On top of this, we're running life regen, like roughly 600. So as you can see, the recovery goes up to like 2k per second. But on top of all that, we also have a pretty iconic and notable that like hardly nobody uses, but this is pretty fucking insane. Time of Need. We regenerate 100% of life over 1 second every 4 seconds. So as you can see on the defenses, if you look at life regenerated per second, every once in a while we'll randomly get 6.2k recovery rate. Like every, let's count, 1, 2, 3, 4. So every time 4 seconds, that's like another layer of recovery. And while bossing, this is insane. Just going full HP out of nowhere is insanely nice for keeping yourself up. Because there's no dead moments. Even if your action speed gets reduced, you will just recover back to full. It's insanely strong. Yeah. As a last point of note, I'm also taking Hunt Leader, which grants us like roughly 150 crits and 35 cast speed, which is pretty cool. Because the last notables are pretty dead. They aren't useful to us. This is very awkward to cast because we're not scaling duration, and Radiant Crusade is limited by duration. One thing I will say, Forbidden Flame, I'm using Forbidden Flame for an Inevitable Judgment, which is a key part because we are splitting our damage 50-50 between cold, and because of Call of the Brotherhood, we're converting lightning to cold so we can explode with Herald of Ice. But I will say this, it is pretty awkward sometimes. How do I say it? It's pretty awkward sometimes because you will not really be able to effectively do a lot of damage on bosses because you will be lacking penetration. I was considering self-cursing, but that's pretty awkward because we want to be casting as much as possible. So instead, I took myself the Inevitable Judgment notable, and as you can see, this is 50% damage increase. So effectively, we're taking... It's not pricey though. Before this build has been up, both jewels cost roughly 2 divines. So if you see this build, I would recommend you to snipe these Forbidden Flames, Forbidden Flesh, so you get an Inevitable Judgment. We get pretty much pure penetration, which is really nice, especially for bossing. So you don't have to curse yourself. It's also a one-button build. We're only using Spark of the Nova, so you don't have to do anything besides just sitting here and casting and having fun. The only other thing I'm using is Arcanist Brand. Arcanist Brand will apply Sniper's Mark for more damage, and also Sigil of Power for less damage taken and a little bit of a buff. Yeah, that's pretty much all the skills that you have to think about. As all my builds, it's pretty AFK. I'm not using Smite because Smite is awkward to scale and to hit. I know most builds are using this, but I just don't like Smite as a skill, as a buff skill. Okay, now you pretty much have the base idea of the build, and I will now just be showcasing gameplay clips. yeah, so that's it for the video. Um, Please consider subscribing. For some reason, I just like. I mean, I'm a POB warrior. You know, I like numbers going up, and I don't know. For some reason, I just really like making content, creating that Discord. It's just fun to me. Consider subscribing, leaving some feedback, comment. Yeah, it just makes me very happy. Um, See you around.